Karen didn't just lose her temper, she completely detached from reality. I mean, fully unraveled. This woman broke into my house in the middle of the night because I dared to leave a light on. But before we get to that chaos, let me rewind and explain how this nightmare even started. I'd heard the horror stories. Everyone has. HOA power trips, endless fines, passive-aggressive letters, imaginary rules enforced like federal law. I promised myself I'd never live under one. Not by choice, not by accident, not ever. But life has a funny way of cornering you when you're desperate. I needed to move fast. This place was affordable, clean, close to work, and wrapped in convenience. I ignored the warning signs and signed anyway. I told myself rules were flexible, that neighbors would mind their own business, that logic and basic decency would prevail. That illusion lasted exactly 3 weeks. That's when I met Karen. She ran meetings like courtroom trials and treated sidewalks like sovereign territory. Her clipboard might as well have been a badge. Her smile looked polite until you noticed how sharp it was. People whispered when she passed. Nobody challenged her. Fines appeared out of thin air like curses. I stayed quiet, I waved, I avoided eye contact. I thought staying invisible meant staying safe. I didn't realize Karen hunted boredom. Control wasn't a hobby for her, it was oxygen. And eventually, her attention landed on me. My offense was painfully simple. Every night I left a lamp on. Darkness makes my thoughts loud, so I sleep better with a soft glow. That tiny habit became her fixation. She monitored my windows like a security feed, tracking angles, brightness, timing. I didn't notice at first. Then the letter came, neatly sealed, boldly addressed, slipped under my door like a threat dressed as stationery. Inside were several paragraphs accusing me of violations. Light pollution, disrespect, disruption, moral negligence. She claimed my lamp invaded her bedroom across the street and ruined her sleep. She even included hand-drawn diagrams, arrows pointing from my window to her face like some cursed geometry assignment. I read it twice, then laughed once, slow and loud, because it felt like parody pretending to be law. I replied calmly, no insults, no sarcasm. I said I respected community rules, but also my personal rights. I reminded her that HOAs don't control what happens inside private homes, and I pointed out that staring into my bedroom at night wasn't my responsibility. I mailed it and thought that would end things. It didn't. 4 days later, Karen turned the HOA meeting into a stage. She read my name aloud with theatrical pauses, like a prosecutor announcing charges. Heads turned, whispers spread. She painted herself as a victim, gripping the podium, claiming sleepless nights and emotional suffering caused by my intentional illumination. People shifted uncomfortably. Some avoided looking at me, others smirked. She thrived on the attention. She announced that if I continued turning on my lights, disciplinary action would follow. The word disciplinary hung heavy in the room. I stood up and calmly asked her to show the rule. Any rule. A page number, a clause, something official. Papers flipped, pages shuffled, her fingers froze mid-search. She couldn't find it because it didn't exist. Her face flushed, jaw tightened, her lips trembled. For a brief moment, her authority cracked. I thought logic had won. I thought embarrassment would humble her. That was my mistake. She leaned closer to the microphone and smiled, thin, rehearsed, dangerous. "Try me one more time," she said, voice sweet and cold, "and I won't be responsible for what happens next." No vote, no policy, just a threat wrapped in confidence. Nervous laughter rippled through the room. Chairs scraped back. The meeting dissolved. As I walked home, the streetlights buzzed overhead, and the neighborhood suddenly felt smaller, tighter, wrong. Karen stood on her porch watching, clipboard pressed to her chest, eyes locked on my house like a promise waiting to be fulfilled. That night, her words echoed in my head like a warning siren I chose to ignore. I stood in my kitchen staring at the switch, annoyed that something so small now felt rebellious. I laughed under my breath, reminded myself I paid a mortgage, not tribute, and flipped the lamp on anyway. I dimmed it slightly, just enough to glow, brushed my teeth, locked the door, drew the curtains halfway, crawled into bed. Sleep came quietly, until midnight tore it apart. A violent pounding exploded against my front door, rattling frames and shaking walls. I bolted upright. Another slam followed, then another. My heart slammed in my chest. Then I heard her. That voice, high, shrill, unhinged, screaming my name like a curse. Karen was shouting about rules, disrespect, consequences, lessons. I stayed still, hoping she'd burn herself out and storm away. She didn't. The pounding stopped. Relief lasted maybe 3 seconds. Then came a new sound, mechanical, uneven, angry. At first I thought it was a motorcycle. Then sparks flashed near the doorframe. The smell of fuel hit my nose. My stomach dropped. It wasn't a bike. It was a chainsaw. My hands shook as I grabbed my phone and dialed 911, backing into the hallway. I whispered my address, said active break-in, and repeated the word chainsaw twice so it wouldn't be missed. While still on the call, I switched to my camera and recorded through the window. There she was, hair loose, pajamas soaked with sweat, eyes wild. She gripped the chainsaw like it belonged to her. She screamed incoherently, blaming my light for her insomnia, her marriage, her stress, her authority slipping away. Wood splintered, the doorframe chipped, neighbors' lights flicked on one by one. I kept recording. I didn't shout, I didn't argue, I let the footage speak. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder, cutting through her rage like fate accelerating toward impact. Police cars flooded the street, red and blue washing over everything. Officers shouted commands. She ignored them, revving the chainsaw again, ranting about enforcement and power. 2 officers rushed her from opposite sides. One kicked the tool away. The other forced her arms behind her back as she thrashed and screamed. The chainsaw skidded across the driveway and went silent. Neighbors poured outside in robes and pajamas, phones raised. Gasps spread faster than rumors. Karen's tone shifted, crying, pleading, demanding supervisors. The cuffs clicked shut anyway. My camera kept rolling. Officers examined the damage. Splintered wood, fuel stains, gouges in the frame. One asked if I wanted to press charges. I didn't hesitate. Said yes. Karen was loaded into the cruiser, still ranting, still insisting she was protecting the neighborhood. The HOA board arrived shortly after, summoned by police. Their faces drained as they saw their president handcuffed and powerless in the back seat. By morning, everything collapsed. Emails exploded. Emergency meetings were called. Lawyers appeared. The video spread fast, faster than gossip ever could. Charges stacked up. Attempted breaking and entering, criminal mischief, reckless endangerment, harassment. She pleaded not guilty, then said nothing at all. The judge didn't smile. Sentencing followed, mandatory counseling, a restraining order, restitution for repairs, legal fees, emotional damages, fines so heavy her house eventually went up for sale. Her reign ended quietly. The HOA removed her immediately. New leadership scrubbed policies, issued apologies, and erased her name from records like a bad chapter they wanted forgotten. My porch was repaired, my peace returned. Every night I still leave my light on, dim, steady, exactly how I like it. No one complains anymore. No one dares. If you enjoyed this HOA showdown, make sure to like and subscribe for more stories like this. The end.